Story 1. My boss wants to sleep with me. What should I do? I was 31, carving out a career for myself, and he, my mentor, seasoned, knowledgeable, 47, and married, was guiding me along this path. For 3 years, he had been both my guide and my anchor. Together we navigated meetings, complex projects, long hours filled with camaraderie. He was a mentor in the truest sense, one whose wisdom seemed limitless, whose influence bolstered my every step forward. I had come to trust him implicitly, nothing more, nothing less. Then, last week, the winds shifted. He invited me to lunch, as he had so many times before, but that day there was a peculiar weight in his gaze, an intensity I'd never noticed. His questions drifted from the familiar contours of work into personal crevices, probing gently, until the confession tumbled forth. He had, over time, come to care for me in a way that no longer fit neatly within the bounds of our professional rapport. He spoke of feelings he had tried to suppress, but that now had grown beyond restraint, yearning for something more. For a moment, the world faltered. I sat, hearing his words, but unable to tether them to reality. This man, whose wife, so kind, had greeted me warmly at company gatherings, whose marriage I had witnessed with quiet admiration, was now asking me to reconsider the very nature of our connection. The gravity of his confession seemed to unravel my thoughts, leaving me suspended in a fog of disbelief. I couldn't grasp why he would jeopardize so much, his marriage, his integrity, our professional foundation, for what he called a shift in his heart. Since that day, he has carried on as though nothing was said, as though he hadn't placed this unforeseen burden upon me. Each encounter now feels charged, laden with the invisible weight of what hangs unspoken. I feel bound, trapped between the trust we had cultivated and this sudden fissure that threatens to consume it all. He has offered me time to think, an assurance that he would handle everything as though he could mend what was broken by mere will. Yet his words have left me stranded. To refuse may risk a cold turn, a retraction of his guidance, a bitterness in his gaze. To accept would be to abandon my own principles, to venture into a betrayal not only of his marriage but of myself. And so I am left to ponder this impossible choice, his quiet offer and my silent response echoing unanswered between us. What a burdensome trial this must be for you, and I am deeply sorry to hear of the turmoil you find yourself in. It is no small matter when someone whom you trusted and respected oversteps the bounds of that respect. His confession has, no doubt, left you tangled in a web of emotions, betrayal, confusion, perhaps even indignation at the intrusion upon the harmony of your professional life. You deserve a workplace that upholds your dignity, where your worth is honored without compromising your values. Remember, his choices, his marriage, his boundaries are his own to bear. Take all the time you need to weigh this, but may you be guided by what is right and true to yourself above all else. Story 2. I'm disgusted. My dad's secret affair and love child. In the small, measured world that I once called my family, there was order, a delicate balance carefully tended over 30 years, a home full of laughter, a mother who gave up her dreams to keep us whole, and a father, that unwavering figure at the helm. But this image, cherished and unquestioned, now lies fractured beyond recognition. Last week, I learned that my father, the very pillar of our lives, has a child, and a fair-born child, 7 years hidden, distant by country, but irrevocably tangled in our lives. The discovery left me breathless, as if the floor itself had vanished beneath my feet. I'm 28 now, and my mother has always been my constant, her brilliance and quiet sacrifices the foundation of our family. She left her own aspirations behind, choosing instead to dedicate herself to us and to his career, believing in a vision that, to her, was worth every forsaken dream. But this betrayal? It's a desecration of everything she built, an unfathomable insult to her devotion. I'm left with a torment I cannot name, an impossible shame that I can scarcely bear to speak aloud. My friends don't know, how could they? How do I explain the weight of a hidden life, concealed by the man who raised me? Even with my boyfriend, the words feel brittle, like glass shattering before I can even release them. Each time I look at my mother, my heart twists with a sympathy so intense it borders on agony. How could the man she trusted, who he trusted, let this deceit grow for years? One life nestled within another, one family carried in secrecy while the other was none the wiser. The anger burns within me like a slow fire, a rage that blurs into sorrow into confusion. How am I to look at him now, knowing all he has so coldly betrayed? To forgive seems beyond my reach, to forget even more impossible. So I remain here, staring into the ruins of a family I thought I knew, my mind circling the questions with no answers, just a hollow silence and a grief I do not know how to carry. My heart aches profoundly for the sorrow that has befallen you. To feel the sting of betrayal from one so close, to witness the very bedrock of family crumble in such a grievous manner, this is a wound few can understand. How cruelly heavy it must feel, this burden, knowing the price your mother paid in the currency of dreams forsaken, trust unflinchingly given. Your anger, such righteous, burning anger, speaks not only for yourself, but for her, for the fabric of a life you believed so true and unbreakable. Take solace, if any can be found, in allowing yourself to feel the storm. The path ahead will be tangled, but there will come a day when each step feels less steep. In this desolate hour, grant yourself permission to mourn, to rage, to weep. Remember that even in this isolation, you are not alone. Story 3. I feel guilty for living the life my best friend wanted. Emily and I first crossed paths in the dusty classrooms of 5th grade, where an immediate, invisible thread bound us together. She was the blazing flame, full of daring dreams and boundless joy, reaching out to the world with open arms. I was the quiet, watchful one, forever pulling her back from the edges she leaned toward, grounding her. Together, we were an unbreakable pair, two halves that created a single, harmonious whole. Through the years, we wove a shared tapestry of dreams, all centered around the bustling promise of New York City. We pictured a life there, with thrilling jobs, cherished friendships, and the steady march toward futures we could shape. We would pore over apartment listings, breathe life into our fantasies with details, promising each other that soon, we'd be there together, alive in that city of endless lights. But life's road is paved with twists that no dream can anticipate. An internship called me to New York just after college, while Emily stayed behind, working odd jobs and saving with dogged patience. We clung to our connection through nightly calls, conjuring shared visions of the future, imagining her arrival in just a little more time. I tried, in every way I could, to keep her woven into my life in that city, except that time doesn't wait. My temporary internship became a full-time job, friends were made, connections formed, and my life took root. Meanwhile, Emily seemed stranded, left fighting through a maze that yielded little for her efforts. Our calls grew infrequent, the shared dreams suspended, drifting further and further out of reach. Then, life unfurled in a way neither of us had seen. I met Alex, a soul as kind and warm as a spring morning, and the course of my heart shifted. As he and I grew closer, I found myself envisioning a life I'd never quite pictured before, one that included him. I began searching for apartments for us, replacing the old dream with a new one. And as our lives intertwined, the very notion of the future that Emily and I had crafted began to dissolve. When Alex proposed, my heart soared, but a shadow fell over that joy. I wanted to tell Emily, but fear held me back, a silent terror of the sorrow my happiness might awaken in her. After days of hesitation, I finally called her. She congratulated me, but her voice was brittle, like a vase about to shatter, and soon she was gone from the line. We didn't speak again for weeks. When I returned to our hometown, we met at a quiet cafe, a place where we had once laughed as girls. But this time, I saw the pain etched in her face, and in the gentle, tremulous voice she unleashed years of silent grief. She told me she felt as if, in watching me, she was watching her own dreams live and breathe in another's life. I was the safe one, she confessed, the one who would follow her trail, who would remain in the background while she shone. Yet here I was, inhabiting the life she had painted for herself, a job, a home, love. The words she poured out filled the silence between us like a wave rolling back after a storm. She confessed she couldn't help but feel that I had taken something precious from her, even if it was unintentional. And as I listened, I felt her sorrow seep into my bones. I felt guilty, even though I knew I hadn't consciously chosen this path. The life we'd dreamed of, now mine, was a bitter reminder for her of all that remained out of reach. The cafe walls closed in around us, and as I offered a quiet apology, I knew it would never be enough to mend what was broken. We parted without a word of resolution, and I returned to New York carrying the weight of her unspoken dreams and my newfound guilt, a burden I feared I might never shed. Now, I wander through the city we once saw through shared eyes, feeling the loss of her presence and the chill of a gap that may never close. I cannot undo my choices, nor unlove Alex, nor relinquish the life I fought to build. Yet, in the quiet hours, I am haunted by the ghost of a friendship and a question that echoes without end. In reaching for my own happiness, did I betray hers? And though I cannot answer, I know that her absence colors every corner of this life I once dreamed we'd share. Opie, how clearly I see the burden you carry. Friendship, with all its quiet complexities and silent understanding, is a rare gift, a gift you and Emily shared in the fullness of your youth. Yet life's ceaseless march has given you both separate fates, and the guilt you feel for your successes weighs upon you. This pain, born not from any selfish desire, but from simple human striving, clings to you like a shadow because you care deeply. Emily's sorrow, her own unfulfilled hopes, is one she projects onto you. It is perhaps easier for her to see her pain reflected than to face it alone. But this path is hers alone to tread, as much as it pains you. Should you still desire this friendship, perhaps you might gently share your own heart, setting a boundary that honors both your shared past and the life you've now found. If this friendship is meant to endure, it will seek its own renewal in time. Yet remember, you, too, are deserving of joy and fulfillment. To stifle one's light out of guilt would serve no true friend.